Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our August Facebook Live session. My name is Heath Einstein. I have the great pleasure of serving as Dean of Admission at Texas Christian University, and I am very excited to be here with you this evening, or this afternoon, or this morning, depending on where you're joining us from. And if you haven't already, please tell us in the chat where you are coming from. It's always fun to see who is here. Hi, Patty in San Diego. What's up, Kathy in Plano? James from New York. That's awesome. Mary, Alice, Sargent from Laguna Niguel, my home area of Orange County, California. Awesome. And what I love about this is it is always reflective of our student body. We have students at TCU from all 50 states, from dozens of different countries. And when you come here, you are entering an incredibly geographically diverse, ethnically rich environment. And that's part of what going to college is all about. As you know, if you've joined us in the past, we start all of our Facebook Live sessions with a land acknowledgement. No matter where you are joining us from here at TCU, we are located on the ancestral homeland of the Wichita and affiliated tribes. And we are grateful for those peoples who have lived on this land since time immemorial. Strongly encourage all of you to check out the monument between Reed Hall and Jarvis Hall the next time you are on campus. We have been doing these Facebook Live events now for the better part of a year and a half. We touch on all subjects that have to do in some way, shape, or form with the college admission process. So we've talked about campus visits. We've talked about standardized tests. We've talked about building your resume. We've talked about how to write an effective college essay. Tonight's session is on intercollegiate athletics. And I'm very excited to welcome my special guest this evening, Jeremiah Donati, our Director of Intercollegiate Athletics here at TCU. And I'm going to allow him in a minute to tell us a little bit about himself. But before we get there, I just want to mention, again, if you haven't been with us in the past, these are unscripted. So whatever questions you have for us, we want to be able to address them. We have just a couple of minutes of comments, but we really want to get to your questions, your thoughts as it relates tonight to intercollegiate athletics, or really anything related to admissions if you want to go there. We just opened our application for next year 2 days ago on August 1st. So we've already seen applications for the fall 23 entering class, if you can believe it, Jeremiah. We already have students who are entering, who are thinking about coming to college next year. And that's very, very exciting. So go ahead and pop your questions into the comment section. We will get to as many of them as possible. I do want to, in advance, not only thank Jeremiah for joining us, but there are a couple of folks behind the scenes, Amy Peterson from TCU Marketing and Communication, and Liz Rainwater from TCU Admissions Marketing. And they are doing yeoman's effort, making sure that we look good tonight. So they're the ones behind the scenes doing all the work. I also would be very remiss, particularly on a night dedicated to athletics, if we didn't acknowledge the passing of two icons in the last week. Bill Russell, the greatest team winner, or the greatest winner in team sports in history, as well as Vin Scully, the poet laureate of baseball, who just passed away last night at the age of 94. So big loss in the world of sports. And so let's hop to it. Jeremiah, excuse me, my good friend Jeremy. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been at TCU now for about a decade, and held this post for the last 5 years. Tell the crew a little bit about yourself.
First of all, good to be with you, and good to see everybody sort of virtually. Amy and Liz, I don't know if they're going to make us look better, but they got us live, and so we're grateful for that. But 10 years. Wow. It's been a wonderful experience at TCU. This has been really a dream job. And I would have said that before I became the athletics director. I was lucky enough to be promoted into this role 5 years ago, but I actually came from the private sector as a sports agent in Southern California. I know you're from there as well, Heath. But had worked in college athletics before that at Arizona, Washington State, and Cal Poly. So This has been a real blessing to be here. Fort Worth is just, I mean, it's growing a lot. It's changed a lot since we've been here. I've got two little ones at home that I got to say hi to, Colette and Naomi. They're staying up to watch this. They're wondering where I'm at. I'm still at work, guys. So no, it's my I've got formally I've got a legal background. I came from Whittier Law School before this, and I played basketball at the University of Puget Sound. So at a different level, I do know what being a college student athlete's like, and it's just a real blessing to be here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm really excited about the upcoming fall and spring seasons.
Well, Jeremiah, you and I have spoken enough offline for me to know that everything that you just said about how blessed you feel to be here is what you say to behind the scenes as well. And I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I feel like, you and I are like two of the luckiest people in the world to be able to do what we do at the place where we do it.
Doubt.
And TCU is such an incredible institution overall, and in particular as it comes to athletics. I mean, of course, there are the sports that get a lot of attention, and certainly our football and basketball teams have been really successful in recent years. But we've been successful all over the place, and we have 22 sports. I think we have the most sports of any team in the Big 12, or any school in the Big 12 conference. We have won just this last year, 5 coaches won Conference Coach of the Year. I mean, just incredible stuff. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what is it like to manage such a massive enterprise?
Well, first of all, we have a high standard here across the board, whether it's, across the street, as we like to say, on Stadium Drive, campus wide, or here in athletics in our side of campus. And we've got coaches and student athletes that have delivered. It's been, we set a very high standard for them. It's a standard of excellence that we're going to compete for championships. And so this past year, you mentioned a few, but baseball, soccer, tennis, basketball had historic years. And so we're excited about that. But it's funny. We're the smallest school in the conference, but 12,000 kids, which isn't a small amount of people, but we've got so much here within athletics that we're still growing. We've actually bringing in a new sport next year, women's triathlon. So we're continuing to add to that, and which is exciting for our student body. They, it's challenging to think about 500 student athletes. They've all got different, they come from different places, and most of these sports are international, right? The Olympic sports. So you've got kids from all over the world, which is really fun to get to know them, understand what their aspirations are as they begin to go through college. This year we've got what I would call, this is kind of our bounce back year, right? You come out of COVID. This is the first year, I think, where we've got kind of all those protocols out of the way. And we spent a lot of time preparing for this moment. There's expectations are high. Like I said, the bar is set really high, but we're all on the same page. And I think that's the biggest thing about working here at TCU is everyone is rowing in the same direction. They're rowing the same, we're on the boat going the same way. We feel very supported by campus. It's really cool when you walk, take football, for example, you walk game day and you see professors and faculty, and I've run to you so many times. Everyone's invested, everyone's supported, and everyone's invested. So it's, when you ask me the question of what it's like to manage this, I'm lucky. I don't do this by myself. I've got a great team behind me and around me, and so it's just a real blessing to do that. And they're the ones that inspire me to do this every day. I mean, it's like you got to kind of pinch yourself driving down University that you get to come to a place like this. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but I had to just brag on my team for a little bit. This wouldn't be possible without having 200 of the best employees you could find.
You set me up perfectly, actually, without even knowing it, because I feel like I've got the best team in admissions. In fact, my team right now, this was a picture taken like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago. We're in the middle of staff training this week. And so we were just sort of having a nice little happy hour together down University. And we've got the best admissions staff in the country. I would put our staff up against anybody, and I would put our athletics staff up against anybody as well. Jeremiah, you mentioned 12,000 students. What I think the secret sauce to TCU is that we have this student body that is is primarily undergraduate. And so we are offering them the experience of having this sort of big, rah-rah, classic Americana college experience where they can go to the football games and join a fraternity or sorority or be in one of hundreds of clubs on campus. And yet they're getting the attention that they find at a smaller school, much like a school that you attended. And there really aren't many schools like us. In fact, I would venture to say that among schools in a Power Five conference, there are no other schools that are like us. One of the coolest things for our students is they get to attend all home sporting events free of charge, and that is unique. Your student ID gets you into all of the events. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what does that mean to our student athletes to have the kind of connection with the rest of the student body like they do, knowing that their classmates are here cheering them on? What's that like?
Well, first of all, you made a great point. Last year, we had a record-setting student attendance in football, basketball, and soccer. I mean, it was off the charts. And so much, in fact, that we have expanded all the student sections for this year, baseball as well, excuse me. So, I mean, it's what you said is that you get the smaller campus feel where you get to know people, 14-to-1 student faculty ratio, but you get the big time athletics on the other side of the street. It is really kind of the best of both worlds. And our students respond to that. When you have 6,000 students showing up at a football game, that's half your student body. Tell me, show me another school where that's happening. So it's an exciting time to be here. We spend a lot of time. The students are the ones that start the drink. I mean, they're the ones that the student athletes respond to them. The fans respond to their presence. We saw it all year last year in football and basketball. But it's, we're unique like that. There's a lot of schools you go to and they have like a student athletics fee, they charge you whatever it is. Look, it's not, this starts with Chancellor Boschini. He's a student experience guy. And he has said, look, every student deserves the opportunity to come to all sporting events. And so we do our best to accommodate that. Sometimes, we are our worst enemy in that you have huge crowds and we're trying to accommodate all of it, but those are good problems to have. The students, you just can't say enough about the support they give the student athletes. They recognize that, right? And so when you've got thousands of kids cheering you on, which we'll see here in a few weeks, which, football practice started yesterday. It's officially fall here in athletics. It's, they live for that moment. That's what they live for. That's what they come here to do when they come to school, is compete at the highest level and have, a bunch of kids screaming that they know and they're friends with because they see them in class. This is an in-person experience. That's our bread and butter. And, we've delivered that really well.
We absolutely do. We solicited questions in advance on social media. One of the questions that came in via Instagram from TCU on top was, are we going to pack the Carter this fall? And how can we make that happen? And I guess I would expand that question to ask you, are there any sort of changes that you have made or that athletics has made in terms of how we're issuing tickets or how to, ways that we can drum up support from our fan base?
Well, it literally could not be easier for students, right? Because everyone's got a swipe ID. You literally just have to come over here and swipe and come into the game. We've expanded the student section by almost 1,000 kids. So I believe it's right around 6,000, half of our student body, which includes our grad students. We are, Amon Carter Stadium is a hard place to play when the place is rocking. So we've really doubled down on the student experience. Even last year, we had, obviously we didn't live up to expectations, but we had record-setting crowds. A lot of it, is students getting involved. We had this last year. We were really successful. We had the TCU Barstool group got involved. Those are TCU students who are grassroots, getting kids involved, and we really leaned into that and asked them to come. We invited them to come, gave them access to our players and our coaches. That's going to be our way forward. Is that the access you have to our programs is something we're really proud of that you don't get everywhere else. So our kids respond to that, and as long as they do that, we're going to keep giving them everything they want when they come to our events.
Jeremiah, I know that not everybody who is watching right now or will be logging in later to watch this necessarily knows exactly how it all works, the process of of recruiting prospective student athletes and how those students comprise our teams. We got one question that asks, are first years allowed to try out for the track team? So I would, in addition to answering that question, I guess I would also ask you to maybe talk about what is the difference between somebody who is a recruited athlete versus somebody who's a walk-on, and what do those terms mean?
Well, to answer the first question about tryouts, yes, every sport has a different tryout program, if you will. And so it's just a matter of getting in touch with the head coach and figuring out what that is. We don't have any restrictions, if you will, about first-year students trying out for any sport. Every sport's a little different, right? You've got, men's golf that has, 6 to 10 people on their roster, and you got football that's got 110. Tryouts are going to look a little different, between both of those. So it's really just a matter of what the team's, program is like. But remind me, the second question.
To define the different terms, like what is a walk-on versus like a recruited athlete?
So not every sport gives full scholarships. Not everyone knows that. There's only a few sports that actually offer a full scholarship plus what's called cost of attendance, which covers all of your costs to come to TCU, and that's football, men's basketball, women's basketball. There's very few headcount sports. Most of them are what's called equivalency sports. Like take baseball, for example. You've got 11.7 scholarships to cover 35 roster spots. And so you've got to divide that financial aid up, the athletic financial aid up a number of ways. And there's also merit-based and need-based aid you can receive here on campus. But there's also walk-on opportunities. So we have walk-ons in every sport, so there's no restrictions there. And it's a matter of before you get to campus, the walk-ons I've seen most successful are the ones that have interacted with the coach beforehand and they know they're coming, right? So most of the walk-ons here were actually recruited. It's just a function of, can we actually provide the aid, because there's a limit to that. So those are NCAA rules. When I say 11.7 scholarships for baseball, for example, that's not a TCU rule. All of our scholarships are funded. That's an NCAA rule. So hope that answered the question, but there are abundant opportunities for walk-ons. Our coaches need them. Our student athletes need them. And we've seen some be very, very successful here.
So let's say we've got someone is a high school ninth grader or 10th grader. They're enjoying playing sports. Their talents are developing. At what stage do you might be playing in college, and how do you assess whether you might be playing at a Division 1, 2, or 3 level? What's that process like for an emerging athlete?
Well, typically, and there are exceptions, but a lot of kids make commitments to the institution they're going to go to at this level, the Power 5 level, Division 1 Power 5. We'll start there for a second. During their junior year, after their junior year. So a lot of the evaluation is typically done on their freshman, sophomore, and junior performance. Now there are exceptions. There's late bloomers. I was one myself, but that's typically you're seeing a lot of kids that are they're in focus with all, from a recruiting standpoint, from all the big programs. Those kids just finished their junior year, so that's the 23 class. So that's kind of like that's kind of the top level, right? Working backwards, you've got all sorts of kind of variables there. You've got kids that play well their senior year. You've got late bloomers, or kids that do postgraduate years at prep schools. So you've got, but that's kind of the process is really when they start getting on our radars is really their freshman, sophomore year, and the offers start coming end of junior year.
Okay, we have a tradition on these Facebook Live sessions. You might not know this, where we do dad jokes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You haven't been prepared for this, but you are a dad, so I think that gives you a built-in advantage. Okay, so
I need to write this down because I'm gonna share these tonight when I get home to my 2 little ones.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I didn't write any of them that are inappropriate then. Okay, so here's dad joke number 1. Here's the question for you. Okay. What are a chocolate bar's preferred pronouns? What are a chocolate bar's preferred pronouns?
Oh, geez. I was trying to give you a clever answer. I don't know.
I know. Her, she. Sheet.
Okay, that's a good one.
Okay, good. We will get back to those. There will be more. Okay, let's get back to the we've been given great questions, and please, by all means, people keep writing in questions for me or for Jeremiah. Let's see. Mario wants to know: can you please comment on the effect of COVID vis-a-vis the transfer portal with regards to student athletes aspiring to play basketball at TCU? So again, this is a very specific question, which you might be able to answer. And then I'm also curious, just in general, what did COVID do for athletics at TCU?
Yeah. So, could you please comment on the effect of COVID with regards to? Well, it's a little challenging because I don't know. I need a little more detail. I'm assuming that Mario's a college student athlete. So, okay, I'm trying to fill in the blanks a little bit here. I'm going to make some general statements. Everyone was given a COVID year. Everyone who participated in basketball they were given another year, right? So there are kids that maybe looking to exercise that, maybe looking to transfer and play one more year. So that's kind of one thing. If you're looking to come to TCU, I guess my response would be, get in touch with us, get in touch with our coaches and with our operations folks, so that you're on the radar. If you're not already, I'm not sure. I'm very involved in recruiting to the extent I can, but obviously I don't know this situation. But I would advise you, Mario, please reach out to me. Send me an email, j.donati@tcu.edu, and I can get you in front of the people that can answer this question specifically. But I think you're asking about that additional year and what it would potentially transfer into TCU care of 2024. You got me confused. This is a brain buster.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best. There's a couple of things going on there. Just reach out to us and we'll get you squared away, Mario.
Yeah, and I think you did answer the question about the extended year of eligibility, which is important for our prospective student athletes to know.
And we have a lot of student athletes that are utilizing that, which is awesome. I mean, because that was a tough time. I mean, you had this is a great time in their lives that was just kind of stripped away. I thought it was totally fair to give them some feedback. There's my kiddos. They're watching. Okay. My little one always does this. She always goes, she's watching me. Okay. She's watching me, but I'm not watching her right now. Well, Mario, I hope that's helpful, but please reach out if that didn't answer your question.
My kids are usually in the back. I'm doing this from my office tonight. Usually I do it from home and my kids are in the background. And then as soon as I turn it off, they're like, "You didn't say that joke, Dad. Come on." You mentioned something about getting in touch with the coaches, and just in case people aren't aware, you can go on our athletics webpage, gofrogs.com, and actually fill out a recruited student questionnaire for any sport that you're interested in, and it will ask you for some relevant information vis-a-vis that sport, and that will go to the recruiter of that sport, and that's a great first step, in addition to registering with the NCAA Eligibility Center.
Yep, and we keep and read every single one. So I often get text messages or emails from donors or friends who say, my son or daughter just filled out those forms for this sport or that sport. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, which actually addresses, Omar had just asked in, what's the best way to get recruited for football in particular? Is that the best first step, filling out those forms? Is there another avenue for athletes in football, for example?
Well, the best avenue for being recruited is to play well.
Yeah, right, exactly.
and do well in school, because we're only going to recruit kids that have a chance to be successful on the field and in the classroom. Like I said, we've got high expectations and high standards in both areas, and so we're focused on kids who get done both places, on the field and in the classroom. So that's the biggest thing. But we have, we can't be everywhere all at once. As big as our football staff and our recruiting span reaches, there are kids that we find out about via other, donors, or they contact us that all of a sudden we say he or she would be a great fit here. So I would encourage you to reach out to the football staff. We have an entire recruiting department that focuses on this, much like Heath, much like you do. And so I'm not sure what year the young man is that sent the question, but just keep keep grinding, keep working hard, and we'll find you. But don't hesitate to reach out.
I think that's excellent advice, and I love that you put the academic component into it. Number one, we just TCU, especially over the last decade, has really sort of redoubled its effort in looking at students who are going to increase the academic profile of the institution. In fact, that is one of the pillars of the university's strategic plan. So we want students who can succeed here. And there's another reason why you alluded to it earlier, especially with the equivalency sports, which is the ability for our student athletes to get academic scholarship, which is a huge help for the athletics budget too. So there are all sorts of reasons. And sort of connected to that, I'm wondering, Jeremiah, can you talk a little bit about the academic support that is available to our student athletes?
Sure. Well, we have an entire academic services department. So I always tell people this: you come to TCU, you're not going to slip through the cracks. And it doesn't matter, if you're having trouble in your personal life, or on the with your teammates, or in the classroom, you're not going to slip through the cracks. We've got plenty of support services, wraparound support services, to make sure that doesn't happen. Sean Worthen, who's a former TCU student athlete, you talk about a guy who's talk the talk, walk the walk. Played football at TCU at the highest level, played in the NFL, and now runs our academic services department. This guy has seen it all, and he leads a department that's been incredibly effective with our teams because they look up to him. He's like a mentor to them because he's been here, he's done this, he's succeeded. So he's a guy that's really can tell them all the how to do this and how to do it well, and show them how to navigate. Because sometimes, and this isn't a student athlete thing, when kids come to college, it's a lot different than it was in high school. So there's a process, there's a learning curve there. But our academics team does a great job of working with these kids' schedules. A lot of times these kids are traveling, they've got odd practice hours. It's different, and every kid has their plight, so to speak. I'm not here to suggest that student athletes have a more difficult road, but it can be challenging. And if you're in season and you're a freshman and you're traveling all over the country, it can be tough to keep up. But academics does a great job making sure these kids stay on task. We've got hundreds of tutoring sessions that go on every week. It's a program that supports our kids really well. I'm really proud of them.
And the numbers just bear it out. If you look at the average GPA of our student athletes and graduation rates and so forth, I mean, we are just producing just consistently outstanding students and athletes. It's unbelievable.
Well, one thing I would add to that Sean came up with that's really impressive is the Horned Frog Academy. So one thing we found years ago was that kids came to school, and when they started their fall season and started college at the same time, it was a lot. And so the Horned Frogs Academy is like a stair-step assimilation, if you will, into what it's like to be a college student. That has been one of the biggest things that we've done for our incoming kids, because now they know what to expect. They know what to expect on day one, which is August 22nd. They know what day one feels like. They know what they're going to see and experience when they walk in and meet with professors. So that's been a big deal for us. Not every school does that. And so we kind of look at that as a secret weapon of ours, if you will, because we've had tremendous positive feedback on that.
Jeremiah, the Princeton Review has ranked TCU as having the best athletic facilities. And that's a big part of what you've done over your time here is really built up the facilities here. What is that process like for you? Is it a monthly, quarterly, annual? Like how often are you evaluating our facilities? When do you know we need to upgrade? What is that? I'm just curious. What is that process like for you?
Well, it's one that's flattering that we've been recognized by the Princeton Review. I'm not surprised, and I don't mean to sound overconfident, but we are a reflection of what the university has done on a larger scale, and so that makes me very proud to be here at TCU. We had some serious needs. We had to redo our football stadium. We had to redo our basketball stadium. Those are the biggest economic drivers of athletic revenue, and so we had to appropriately monetize those two facilities. I don't know what a better way to say it. I tell people this all the time. You may find bigger stadiums, but you will not find nicer. We spend a lot of time traveling to kind of pick off the best things, but from other stadiums, but also make it TCU, right? So the question was, how does this process look? Look, I would love to wave a magic wand and be able to do this for every single facility. It costs money, and we've been fortunate to have incredible donor support. But we've got other projects on the horizon. I mean, we had to make football the priority. If you were here, between 2000 and 2010, you saw the rise of our football program. But we had a stadium that was antiquated. We didn't have premium seating. There were no suites. There were no club seats. Those are things that we needed to really we needed to offer a better experience for our fans. So that was one of the things. We also football needed to generate more revenue. Frankly, we had an unbelievable team that wasn't doing that. So those are ticketed sports. Now the Olympic sports, that don't have the competitions that maybe aren't ticketed, or there's not a revenue stream associated with those. Those are a combination. Some of those are shared facilities with students on campus. In other words, our beach volleyball courts, for example, those are shared facilities, which are state of the art, by the way. Our swimming facilities. So those things are all you have to have good partners across campus to make those work, and we do. So I do think, I'm not, looking into any crystal ball right now, but I do think things that, as the university looks, and you didn't talk about growth and what that looks like going forward. I do think that some things like swimming facilities, our rec center, those are things that are going to need to be addressed, right? And those will benefit some of our Olympic sports as well.
Jeremiah, you just used a term that caught my attention, which is the importance of having great partners across campus. And I think the partnership between admissions and athletics is a really clear example of a great partnership. Okay. I'm reminded of that because of a question that was asked. Pamela Jean asked, what GPA and ACT score do you need to be recruited? And that's a hard question to answer, other than to say we want to see students who are going to be successful. And in admissions, we take a holistic approach to the evaluation of our applicants, and that is just as true for athletes as it is for non-athletes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I appreciate is that when there's a prospective student athlete, a recruited athlete coming through, we have really open dialogue between the compliance office in athletics and the folks on our team who are working with athletics to do sort of a pre-read to see whether is this student going to be someone who we think can be successful. I'm so appreciative of you that you've never said to me, oh, this is someone we really need to have here. That just doesn't happen at TCU. I can't say what happens at other institutions, but there's a very clear firewall at this institution that that we are able to bring in amazing athletes who we know can also be successful academically. So, it's a non-answer for Pamela Jean, other than our athletes should be strong students. But I just wanted to let you know publicly, and you and I have shared this privately too, how appreciative I am of you and your team.
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that, Heath, and that's something that we take very seriously. Our coaches know. I mean, we need to bring prospective student athletes here that have a chance to be successful, that have a strong chance, a strong likelihood of being successful. So we're not going to, we're really not going to spend a lot of time recruiting students who aren't serious about academics, and so that's there's no hard and fast rule there. I guess I would just say that we're looking for strong students that have a lot of it. Like we want people who are diverse for a lot of reasons, right? Whether it's their interest, their background, what they want to do, their future endeavors, the activities they're involved in. Those are the kind of kids I've seen who do really well here. So there's a lot of metrics and variables that you could answer better than I, Heath. But generally speaking, we're looking for strong students who can be successful here, who want to be here. TCU is really special in that regard. We do really well with kids who commit early because they're dialed in on this place. They want to be here. We know that. And so those kids, if you were to look back the last 20 years, the ones that when they get that offer, who commit to us early, have done really, really well.
Michio asks, how are students' classes scheduled around practice and other athletic events? And I just want to say, Michio, great to see you. Say hi to your mom and dad for me. But that's a good question. Like, how our athletes are so busy with their schedules, how are they able to fit that in along with their classes?
So that's where academic services really shows their shows a lot of their value. They come in. So what usually happens is we will know when practice schedules are. If you're a fall sport, for example, football practices in the morning. So we know scheduled classes in the afternoon. So academics will work with all these kids based on their major, based on what they need to fulfill their major, their minors, all those sorts of things, to get all those things scheduled around practice. And that's a lot. It's a big haul. There's 525 kids that they've got to do this for. But it all depends on when your practice schedule is, and academics will help work with getting registered in all these classes. So it's quite a process. It's quite a haul, but they do a really good job of that. And there's academics is really important here. There are kids that have to show up late for practice 2 days a week because they've got a class they're in. So they accommodate that. It's never going to be perfect. There's a ton of kids that have classes that go morning, noon, and night, but they do an unbelievable job of that. But we're able to prepare for that with some advance notice.
Okay, let's see. There is a question here. Can't see who it's from. I can't remember who it's from, but asking about, here it is, Jax. How far do you think the women's soccer team will go this year? We've had some amazing success the last couple of years. What's the vibe around the soccer team like?
Well, we had if this is any indication, we had they didn't know it was a ring ceremony. We had a kickoff party over here in the Legends Club, the new Legends Club in the football stadium. And Eric Bell, it was packed. Eric Bell, the head coach, came over to me and kind of leaned in and said, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this." And what happened was everybody fell in love with this program a few years ago as it started to ascend to what Eric told us he was going to do in his interview almost 9 years ago, which is incredible. He came in with a vision and he stuck to it. And oh my gosh, we're seeing it play out in real time. When you're back-to-back Big 12 champs and you're literally a bad call away from being in the Final Four, the goal that wasn't. Now that, by the way, there's a replay, and that would have been a goal. The expectations are high. They're ranked preseason top 10. We're going to be favored to win the Big 12 conference again for the third year in a row, and so the sky's the limit with this group. I mean, oh my gosh, it's a talented bunch. We lost a couple players to the draft, but we've reloaded with some incredible talent. What's amazing about this group, I'm just going to brag on them for a sec. They are, like you said, they are more than athletes. These are young ladies that you would be proud of, no matter who you are, no matter what. They represent TCU in such an unbelievable way. I got a chance to spend some time with them during their ring ceremony. I mean, this is a group that's focused. They get it done on and off the field. It's just a real pleasure to be around them. And talk about great role models. I've got 2 young girls at home, both who play soccer, and to bring them to soccer games and have them be around these young ladies is just it's kind of a dream come true for a dad, right? Because it's just they're just underrepresented student athletes. So the sky's the limit with them. Eric would tell you that he's going to undersell it, because he's still disappointed that we didn't advance further the last 2 years. But I would tell you that we could go as far. We could win the whole thing. So it's just he'll tell you it all starts with Wisconsin here in a couple weeks, and let's just play one game, then we'll get to game 2. But this group has high expectations, but they've earned it and deserved it.
Coach Bell, consecutive Coach of the Year winner in the Big 12 Conference, and 14 members of our soccer team were named academic All Big 12. So these are young women who are stellar on the field and off it, as you were mentioning. It's really an incredible group of individuals. Okay, so Noel Brinkman asks, I'm a rising senior and seeking a profession in the sports industry. There's no better person to ask about that than Jeremiah Donati. Does TCU Athletics have internships or affiliations with local sporting organizations? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to get involved in the sports industry?
Well, I'm a big believer of this because I think anybody in life who's had any level of success had someone that helped them out, and someone that gave them a hand, that opened a door for them. And I'm here to tell you that those things happened for me, and I'm grateful. I feel like a big part of my role is to help pay that forward, right? And help kids here on campus, kids anywhere really, but especially TCU students that want to be in a legal profession or athletic administration profession, coaching. So this is I probably shouldn't be saying this publicly, but if you're interested in working and you can work and you're willing to work, we will find a place for you. We've got a lot of interns here, a lot of student workers. Like I said, I was fortunate to have doors open for me that got me to this place, and so I'm a firm believer that you've got to pay that forward and get ready for the next generation, because one day, Heath, someone will be sitting on your side of the screen and someone will be sitting on mine. And it might not be a screen. It might be something we can't even think about right now. But, our industry will be better off if we've got good people that can do those roles. So I'm a big believer. What I would tell you is that if you're and we do have connections with the pro sports here in Dallas-Fort Worth. There's a ton of good. I mean, it's just abundant. This is a sports town. This is a sports metroplex. So we have opportunities everywhere. And I'm just amazed at how many people land in the sports industry, and they leave here. So I would just encourage you to reach out. Sports, like any other business, is about networking and making contacts. And so, we're not going to shy away from that. We've had some great people that have cold called us, that have come in here and made a huge impact in our athletics department. So reach out, let us know.
Awesome. Okay, time for another dad joke.
Okay.
So we're gonna change it up on you a little bit. What concert? I don't know if you're a music fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So you should be primed to answer this question. What concert costs 45 cents? What concert costs 45 cents?
This has to do Nickelback. 50 Cent Nickelback. 50
No,
Cent.
you got it. 50 Cent plus Nickelback.
50 Cent plus Nickelback. I was going to say 50 Cent opening for Nickelback.
Okay, you are the first person to ever get one of these right. So
is the order right?
You can expect a gift in inner office mail here pretty soon. That's impressive. Okay,
I never get jokes right. Every time someone starts with a joke, I'm always just like, I give up. So
I love it. Well done, sir. Okay, let's get back to the questions. I'm curious what the experience is like. We talked a little bit for our student athletes, what that experience is like in terms of academic support. But I want to broaden that a little bit to just in general. What is it like to be a student athlete off the field? How compare and contrast the student athlete experience versus the experience of a non-athlete? Are they just a regular part of the student body, or not really? How does that all work?
It's hard because it's a full-time job. It really is. And so they don't get the opportunity to do a lot of things I think that non-athletes do. That's kind of the sacrifice or the trade-off that you make when you sign up for this. And for some, that's really tough. And there have been, quite a few that they realize that this isn't for them. And so that doesn't make them bad people. It's a huge commitment. And so there are a lot of things that you miss out on. And we try our best to make sure they are ingratiated to everything that the university avails itself, the kids can avail themselves to within the university. But it's not perfect. I mean, pretend you're a fall student athlete for a moment. You compete on the weekends, right? You've got practice every day, and so it's just difficult to manage that in a really robust kind of social life. Now, I'm not telling you that these student athletes don't have friends. They have a lot of friends, and they have a great time. And I'd love to believe that all of them have a wonderful experience. But there's a lot of things on campus that require time, events, those types of things that they just miss out on. So we do our best to put our arms around them and show them love and support them. We're having our kickoff party here. We actually have, I'm looking out of the Schulmeyer Arena window here. We'll have a massive block party here, the kickoff party on the 22nd, the first day of school, with the DJ and food trucks. And so we try to give them as much fun as we can, but it's funny. A lot of these men and women, they're really focused on their profession, their trade, if you will. It's not a profession, they're not pros, but they treat this like they're pros, and they go about it in a very professional manner. So the good news is there's so many things going on here that they can do a lot of this in their off season. They can do a lot of this in the summer and on their breaks. So the key is just being intentional about providing these types of events and fun things to do. And TC does an incredible job of that.
You mentioned that our student athletes aren't pros. One of the big topics in recent years has been the emergence of NIL, name, image, likeness. Can you first describe, for people who don't know what that means, what does NIL mean, and how has that impacted TCU athletics?
Yeah, so NIL is an acronym for name, image, likeness, and what that means essentially is it gives student athletes the ability for the first time ever to earn money based on their name, image, likeness. And there's a long story and legal explanations on how we got here, but very simply said, this was banned by the NCAA. So on July 1st of last year, literally 13 months ago, the NCAA changed those rules for a lot of different reasons, but this was a total paradigm shift. And when I mean paradigm shift, I mean like a complete 180 or turned upside down, because what was banned and what was forbidden is now not only permissible, but it's encouraged, and it's actually necessary to compete. So, it's really interesting. I, as a former sports agent, have always been a proponent of it, because I've always felt like this is a unique time in these young people's lives that they can take advantage of their talent. A lot of these student athletes will not play professionally, and so this is a really unique time to take advantage of that talent that they've spent their life, developing. So if they were musicians, or if they were artists, or if they were entrepreneurs, they can do that. They could do that without any restriction from the NCAA. But student athletes have always been precluded from doing that. So when those rules were lifted, it kind of created a completely different environment. We created 525 entrepreneurs on our campus. We quickly partnered with Dean Pullen and the business school to help manage that and help them celebrate and expand and develop their platforms. We've also worked with them to talk about issues like taxation and financial literacy, because for some of these student athletes, there's significant amount of money coming in. So it's been interesting. The one thing that's challenging about NIL is there's not one rule that everyone plays by, and there's probably people watching this going, "What do you mean?" The NCAA said that you need to follow your state laws. Every state law is different, and so Texas's law is kind of somewhere in the middle. It's not very lenient, but it's also it's not. There are laws that are more conservative. But I'm here to tell you there's other state laws that allow much more participation from the university. So it's gone really well. We are an industry leader in this area. We're in the DFW Metroplex. There's more opportunities available to our kids than most places, and so that's been a real positive. But it's like anything else, there's no finish line to this, and the rules are changing. There's a lot of trends that are developing. So it's something that has changed our industry forever, and not for the bad. I don't mean it in a negative, but there's you read all the time about some student athletes getting an incredible amount of money. Those are outliers. One of the things I've been really happy about is that we were nervous this was just going to affect men's basketball and football. I'm here to tell you that our women's sports have really capitalized on this as well. So that's a real positive. And we're just gonna, like anything else in athletics, but at TCU, we want to be ahead of the trends, and so we spend a lot of time making sure that we're educated, we're up on what everyone else is doing, and we want to do it our way though. So it's gone really well, but it's like it takes it's a whole new world out there, and it's something that any aspiring athletic administrator has got to do a lot of. They got to do a lot of work to understand what these rules are and how this affects recruiting and retention and all those things. It's a new dynamic that we didn't have 13 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of things that have changed in recent years. The other, I think, big news is the transfer portal. And I'm curious about how that's impacted TCU athletics and the ways in which we've leveraged that as a means of attracting great student athletes.
So the transfer portal is interesting. This came right on the heels of the pandemic, along with the NIL rules, and we kind of jokingly said in the middle of COVID that we were going to trade this set of issues for another set of issues waiting for us on the other side, which was transfer and NIL. Those two are very much interconnected in a lot of ways, and you can understand why. There's we've benefited from the transfer portal. The portal's been a huge plus for us because there were kids that decided to go to a bigger school or a school that had more reputation in that particular sport that ended up transferring back to us. So we've had a lot of kids that came here that TCU was like their second, third choice that left the state and wanted to come back and be closer to their family. We've benefited that 100 times more than it's hurt us. And so not every school can say that. This is a great place to transfer to. We've talked about the Metroplex and all that we offer here, but it's different. It's there's a lot of sports that you used to just recruit straight out of high school, and now our coaches, especially in football and basketball, they really need to be very keen on who's out there and who can kind of supplement their roster. This is not, any coach would tell you, this is not how you want to build your team. It's strictly out of the portal. Mm-hmm. But this is a great way to maybe fill some holes in your roster or some positions that you need filled or some depth there. So it's been a really good thing for us. Those rules are going to change even more. At first, this was a one-time transfer exception, which meant you didn't have to sit out the year in residency. Well, those rules are going to change, and I think now what you're going to see is there's going to be unlimited transfers, so long as those student athletes, they have to do it within a transfer window, but they have to keep on track to graduate. Right. And so the onus is really going to be back on them, which I think is a good thing. So those rules, I think are going to be changing here like any week.
And we saw the impact immediately. I mean, in that first year, I think we had more transfer athletes in that 1 year than we had like the 3 previous years combined. But it's been but you can see the success that our teams have had as a result of that.
Yeah, they've done a nice job, and Jamie Dixon is probably the one that you probably would be the first one to look at, as far as he did an excellent job of figuring out 2 years ago, kind of where the holes in the roster were, where they need to get better, and just leaned into the rules right away. And so the timing of that was really fortuitous.
Right. Okay, Karen asks whether we're going to be discussing club sports, and I think it's a great question because there are students in high school who might think that they are going to be competitive at a high D1 level, and as they progress, maybe they realize, what, I'm not quite at that level, but I still have that desire to compete. Mm-hmm. So can you describe for folks what is the difference between a Division 1, 2, or 3 sport versus club sports versus intramural sports? What are those terms mean?
Sure. Well. So I don't oversee the club sports program. Right. That's run by the rec center, and so I can speak into this, but I'm certainly not an expert. But what I would tell you is that we have a really strong club program, and in particular, I'm going to miss some, so please forgive me here. But our lacrosse team, our men's hockey team, believe it or not, we're sitting here in the middle of a hot summer, on the back end of a hot summer, and we're talking hockey. We have an esports team that also falls in that club. So the club sports are run by the rec center, and we've got some really good ones. We've got some athletes that were tremendous athletes in high school that chose not to extend their college playing career from an NCAA perspective, but wanted to continue to play their sport. And we've even got bass fishing. We won the bass fishing national championship last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
I do.
So we've got, maybe it's just we have a really competitive student body, but there's a lot of sports, a lot of other intramurals, basketball, soccer, those types of things that students avail themselves to. We've got a really solid program that kind of like that's part of the student experience that we offer. That we've got some wonderful facilities here that the kids can take advantage of and be part of those programs.
It was really amazing that we that we won that bass fishing championship. I remember meeting one of those students when
I
he
bet
was
you
in
did.
high school and
I
talking
wonder,
about that.
well, I wonder if he's watching. I'm going to give him some credit here, and I can't remember his name. I apologize. I had a long conversation with him about why we couldn't add this as an NCAA sport, and he was a very passionate guy that we were all really proud of. I mean, it was like, holy smokes, that to win this was a huge deal in the fishing world. But I'm here to tell you, breaking news: we're not adding a fishing program right now. So maybe maybe the next athletic director or the future us down the road when that's a sport, but not for the time being.
Well, my understanding was that we had a bass fishing program that had sort of gone dormant, and that this student that you're referring to sort of just started it up again, and
Yeah.
which speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit of, I think, the TCU student in general.
Yeah, it was incredible talking to him about what they, what they what they had to do to generate the funds to buy the boat to do the whole thing. No, you're right. I mean, we have one of the best entrepreneurship programs in the country, and those are the type of kids who have done really well here. I'm fortunate to know a number of donors, who have started their own businesses who have benefited from that, and those are some of our biggest supporters, biggest donors. So that's the it's funny, if you will, that maybe one day that young man, those two, it was actually two, it was two TCU students. We'll look back on that experience, sitting in that boat, winning the national championship, and looking back on the huge business they built, and that was the fire starter, right?
Yep, yeah, it was Noah Skolnick and Garrett Torres, and Noah's the
There you
one I
go.
remember meeting in
Yeah.
high school. I think he's a year older. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And I spoke to Garrett. Hi, Garrett, if you're out there.
Okay, Ellen Andrews asked, "How did you get the coolest name of all time?" It's possible she's asking me that and not you that. I don't know. Donati's a really cool name.
She's probably asking you that, but
Probably.
I'll pretend like the question is for me for a second there.
Go for it.
So, true story. When I was a kid, I hated my name because all my friends were named like Steve, Pat, Mike, John. And I walked into my parents' bedroom. Somehow I found this out when I was like 10 that you could change your name legally when you became 18. And so I marched into my parents' room. It's like first thing in the morning. And I made this announcement that I was changing my name to Luke. I was a huge Star Wars fan,
Yep.
and I was changing my name to Luke.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of laughed at me, I think. And so as time went on, I've really come to appreciate it. And it's my namesake is not it's not so much biblical, but it's the movie Jeremiah Johnson. And my parents were children of the 60s, I think, when that movie came out. I was born in August. It was a hot day in Worcester, Massachusetts, and my mom said when I was born, I looked like I could have run out of the delivery room, and then I looked like all she could think about was that mountain man, Jeremiah Johnson. So that was my namesake. People don't believe me when I tell them that, but it's if you haven't seen the movie, it's a good one.
I haven't, but I will now. Upon
It's
your
like
recommendation.
it's like the 1973 version of 1883.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. 18. I don't know if you know Kyle Parsons in our financial aid office, but he
Sure.
was an extra in 1883.
Oh wow.
Because they filmed it right out here.
Yeah, Nicole, my wife and I just finished watching it. So
yeah.
It's and oh, by the way, Jeremiah Johnson's is Robert Redford in the movie. So I always remember to tell people that.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's fair. That's a good comparison, Robert Redford. He would be who played you. Okay, that's cool. That's a pretty good way to end our hour together, Jeremiah.
It's been fun.
It has been fun.
I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime. I was sort of chuckling to myself when you said we're, with the football team in practice, it's looking like fall. Hard to say that when it's about 100 billion degrees outside.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's like, we all kind of, I couldn't sleep the night before practice because it's just, that's when things are going. And so soon this whole, when rush starts and everyone's back, it'll be, that's the most exciting time of year. So
it truly is. We've got our student athletes are starting to practice. We've got our international students are about to arrive for their orientation and you're right, recruitment. And this is where it all starts. So, my friend, it was great to be with you. I look forward to seeing you a lot on campus, and thank you so much. And for everyone else out there, thank you for being with us. We will be back again next month, back and better than ever. And this fall, we've got a great lineup. planned for you. We're going to be touching on tips for completing your application. We're going to touch on specific areas of our academic program, like the core curriculum and the College of Fine Arts, and so much more. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for us, feel free to call us at 817-257-7490. You can email us at frogmail, FROGMAIL, at tcu.edu. Otherwise, Jeremiah, thanks so much.
Hey.
Great to be with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone out there, and go Frogs.
Go Frogs.